Before we launch any further into this study, I'd like to introduce to you some voices who have been conversation partners with me and will be for us as we move forward. First of all, let's meet the key three. The first conversation partner is a voice from the distant past, from what we call the patristic era. Tertullian of Carthage in North Africa lived from the mid-2nd into the 3rd century AD. He is known as the father of Latin theology because he was the first to really take up writing theology in Latin. Up until Tertullian's time, theology was primarily written in Greek. He's also known as the father of Latin theology because he was a prolific writer. Tertullian was trained in philosophy, and he was a pagan until his mid-30s. And Tertullian enjoyed going to the Colosseum and watching the games at which people died. And among those who died in the games at the Colosseum were these Christians. And Tertullian found himself moved by their courage and also their love for one another as they faced martyrdom. So Tertullian himself became a Christian in his mid-30s, and he turned his keen mind into explaining and defending the Christian faith. The works that we will consider that Tertullian wrote are called On the Flesh of Christ, and the other work is On the Resurrection of the Flesh. Our next conversation partner is Bishop N.T. Wright, who is a noted New Testament scholar, particularly on the theology of St. Paul. Bishop Wright was the Bishop of Durham in England, but has now returned to the academic setting where he is serving at Wycliffe Hall in Oxford. I first became acquainted with Bishop Wright's works when I read a book of his called The Original Jesus, The Life and Vision of a Revolutionary. And then I had a chance to go to a conference in New Orleans where he was the keynote speaker, and he signed my copy of that book. I've always appreciated his theological writing. I find it accessible and it makes sense to me. And so the books that will be part of our conversation for this study are primarily his book called Surprised by Hope, but also a little bit from Jesus and the Victory of God, and then from his For Everyone commentary series, Acts for Everyone, Paul for Everyone, and Revelation for Everyone. The third member of our Key 3 conversation partners is Garrett Scott Dawson, who is the senior pastor at First Presbyterian Church in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and he holds a Doctor of Ministry from Reformed Theological Seminary. He's a pastoral theologian of some note, and we will be looking at his book called Jesus Ascended, The Meaning of Christ's Continuing Incarnation. Other voices will also be heard, including Karl Barth, C.S. Lewis, and John Macquarrie. Then there are the faculty from the Robert E. Weber Institute of Worship Studies who got all these thoughts rattling around in my head. They are Dr. Cherith Fee Nordling and the very Reverend Dr. Reggie Kidd.